What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to the Funky Brain Podcast. My name is Dennis, and this is my Funky Brain, but you guys already know that. Our guest today is a prominent sports and celebrity agent and global advocate for addiction recovery. Through his agency, Prince Marketing Group, he represents icons like Magic Johnson, Hulk Hogan, Carmen Electra, Charlie Sheen, just to name a few. Mr. Darren Prince, how are you doing today, sir?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. It's all good. Everything's been, I think it was challenging early on, but I tell people that, we're never going to have this opportunity again to really create the best versions of ourselves, and where everyone's kind of in the same boat. So you just have to get out of yourself and take an action, be aggressive with, pursuing your dreams and not getting rolled up in all the negative news and stuff that we're watching, and just put yourself first. And again, just remembering that it's more perspective and perception, that this is an opportunity to reinvent, recreate, and come out of it better than you've ever been before.
So as everybody knows, my show is based in addiction recovery and life mastery. And the reason I reached out to Darren is because he could talk about both of those topics in depth. And I love the name of your book, which is Aiming High: How a Prominent Sports and Celebrity Agent Hit Bottom at the Top. So I love that title because so many people assume that you have to be that like gutter level drunk in an overcoat under a bridge, and that wasn't your story. So can you share with us like your story, what it was like, what happened, what it's like now, and like how are things in your world now compared to the way they were?
Yeah, I often tell people that it doesn't matter if you're from Park Avenue or Park Bench or Yale to jail, that addiction does not discriminate. And the reality is I had an amazing family. I mean, yeah, there was some substance abuse on maybe my grandparents' side, alcoholism, but I've never been a believer in that whole genetic belief. I think it's a personality disorder. Are you more than likely to fall victim to substance abuse and alcoholism if it's in your household? Yeah, of course. But, my father, there was no signs of ever seeing him drink, and my mom and maybe have a glass of wine here and there. But I just knew I was always uncomfortable in my own skin at a very early age. And I had the friends, guys, girls, loving family and sister, great mom and dad. But I just always felt different. I felt socially inept. I was awkward talking to people. I felt like an outcast I never felt a part of. And I was also classified at 6 years old with having a severe learning disability. So I think when you take all that with you into your teens, into high school, and then eventually the real world, and you don't address it, it does go somewhere in your soul and into your core, into that belief. And my first experience was at sleepaway camp, as I often talk about. When I was 14, I had terrible stomach pains, and the counselor took me to the infirmary, and the nurse gave me this green liquid that tasted horrible. But what I didn't realize was about 5 minutes later, my life would change forever. And I felt like tap dancing across the softball field when we were walking back to the bunk. And I was flying high. I got back to the bunk. I was the cool guy, the talkative one, the good looking one, the buff one. The guys were laughing with me out of nowhere. I ran next door to the bunk where there was like 25 girls, and became flirty and chatty and popular, and everybody again's laughing with me, not at me. And the girls were telling me how funny I was. And I just stood up for hours that night, just like staring at the sky. I was just so happy, whatever was going on. And I went to bed that night, not thinking anything of it. And I did all the activities and sports that we did the next day. And that very next night, I'm lying in my bunk, and I was just bummed out because I was thinking about that feeling. That made all those feelings go away. The feeling of less than, not being a part of, inadequate, feeling a little bit dorky, that learning disabled kid. And I learned to lie and cheat right then. And I keeled over in the bunk, and I looked at the counter and said, "Man, my stomach's killing me again. We got to go back to the nurse." And, she just did what she thought was right. And this went on for a few weeks, every single night, until my mom and dad came up for visitation day and found that I was taking liquid Demerol. And that was basically the end of that. And, a few months later, I don't blame the nurse. I don't blame anybody. I blame me for not speaking up. I went to get my wisdom teeth removed, and same situation. I had no idea what these white pills called Vicodins were. And my mom gave me 2 after the procedure. And I'm lying in bed in pain. And all of a sudden the pain went away, and that hole in my soul got filled. And I'm a 14-year-old teenager loving life, calling up everybody. I've got all these great ideas and visions, and I'm funny, I'm chatty. I had certain girlfriends' numbers. I never had the courage to call them. I called them up and again became a big flirt. And 2 days later, the pills were gone. And I only knew one thing to do, but I didn't count. I lied and to my mom. And I put on the crocodile tears. I said, I think I have an infection. We got to go back to the dentist. My tooth is killing me. And what loving mother wants to see their child suffer? So she took me back and I lied and conned the dentist to give a couple more days of Vicodins. You know, that was my story, you know, on a personal level, but professionally, I also had tremendous success as a teenager. I started a baseball card business at 14 called Baseball Card City that eventually became a multi-million-dollar company when I changed the name to Prince of Cards. And so I had the money, I had the success, but I didn't have the inner success. So what I did was I bought all my friendships. Everybody that was around me for the joyride. I would pay for the dinners. I would take the trips. I would buy the drugs. I would, you know, whatever it might have been, take everybody shopping because, again, there was that hole in my soul that I really never addressed. And I chased that feeling for the better part of, you know, 24 years until my day came of, you know, what I thought was the worst turned out to be the best on July 2nd, 2008. From the outside, you would have thought and figured I had it all. I started my agency, Prince Marketing Group, in 1994, and Magic Johnson was my first client, still is. And we had some of the biggest icons in the world: Chevy Chase, Dennis Rodman, all still clients: Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, Pamela Anderson. The list goes on and on. But I was so broken, and I was to the point where it was once living to use turned out to using to live. And it went to a full-blown opiate addiction, painkiller addiction. And, you know, when you go to a doctor and you can get Hulk Hogan on the phone with them, or you bring Joe Frazier, I mean, they're not going to think for a second I got a problem. So every doctor gave me everything I needed. And that day was, it was different. A lot of people say sometimes there are days where they're awakening something. You know, nothing was different or nothing. It was very similar, but you know, my day was because the day before, when I was at that jumping off point, being sick and tired of being sick and tired, my uncle and his then girlfriend Andrea were visiting my mother in New Jersey, and they came to visit me. I didn't know they were in town, and I mean, I was suicidal. I was literally going to bed every night praying that God would take me in my sleep and that this nightmare would be over, and my then wife could collect the life insurance. My family would be taken care of. I did very well. I had them in my will, and you know, it wasn't about private jets. It wasn't about the Super Bowl, the VMA awards, being around the biggest stars, because I didn't mean anything to myself anymore. And when she came into my apartment, Andre, I never met her before, but she said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, I'm not." And I was sweating. I was white. I was bloated. And she's like, "What's wrong?" And I just opened up to her, never meeting her before in my life. And she's like, "Do you realize you're an addict, that your life's unmanageable?" I said, "Yes." And she's like, "Do you realize that you're powerless?" I said, 100%. And she's like, "Most importantly," but I just said earlier, all this stuff, all these photos, these articles about you, do you realize it doesn't mean anything? Because it doesn't matter if you're from Yale or jail or Park Avenue or Park Bench, or it's irrelevant, because the bottom line is this disease does not discriminate. I said, 100%, I understand it. She goes, "Do you want help? Do you want to get sober?" I was like, "I'll do anything to get clean." She goes, "Then you got to follow what I'm going to tell you to do." And fast forward 24 hours later, I was on a brutal detox. And between the Suboxone, Ambien, Klonopin, mood stabilizer, antidepressants, I was drinking a few days a week just to numb myself. And I don't suggest it the way that I did. It definitely wasn't smart, but you know, she got me off of everything except Klonopin, which I was taking for the mood swings and the withdrawals. And I came back from the gym. I was living in New York City that night, and I called them up. I said, "I can't do it." I said, "I'm calling the freaking doctor. It's been 24 hours. I'm crawling out of my effing skin." And they both started yelling at me. "This is the damn disease talking, Darren. You got to find a 12-step meeting in New York City. There's a million of them. Go online, find one. Put your damn hand up and your freaking ego aside already and tell these people you're sick, you're suffering, you need help." I said, "There's no way. I'm not doing it. There's no freaking way." I've been to those meetings. That those people don't understand me. And I hung up the phone and I ran into the bathroom. And my wife thought the worst at that point when I was married, that something really tragic was going to happen in that bathroom. And I went into the cabinet to pull out a Klonopin, and out came 2 Vicodins, and we were 100% sure we got rid of all the opiates. So I just thought for a split second, this is a gift from God. Oh my God, it's exactly what I needed. And then the miracle happened, because I fell to my knees. I was shaking, I was trembling, I was crying, I was screaming. And I said, God, I can't do this. I need you. And, he heard me. I had that white light moment that we hear that Bill W. had in the hospital, and burning sensation on my right shoulder. And I heard a voice say that I've got you when you're ready. And I stood up, and in his hand were the pills. And it wasn't even me. My hand turned right over the toilet bowl, and I flushed them. I came out into the living room, found a 12-step meeting. There was no Uber back then. There was taxis. I went downstairs, living in New York, and got in the first one. And as I'm shaking and hyperventilating, I just look up at the sky and I said, oh my gosh, what just happened? For the first time in my life, I wanted to stay sober more than I wanted to get high. And by the grace of God, that day, July 2nd, 2008, is the date that my life wasn't over. My life was just beginning. And I walked into a 12-step meeting with about 200 addicts and alcoholics. And they said, is anybody you know? With no shame, this hand went right up. This wasn't about the super agent BS and look who he works for, and he's this big deal. No, this is about a man that was fighting for survival, because I wasn't anybody's super, because I couldn't stay sober more than 2 hours at a time for the better part of 24 years. And I was sick and tired of living the double life. And, these spiritual brothers and sisters all came over to me. There's about a dozen of them that said the most amazing things. We've got you. You're in the right place. Just remember, it's easier to stay here than it is to come back. And one funny, I would take the cotton out of yours, put it in your mouth. And I felt at 38 years old in that church basement in the upper 80s, a part of, for the first time in my life, I felt like these people were speaking a language that only I understood. And I just saw this light and this energy that was going on. I felt laughter and love and, support, and people that all took bottoms and made brand new beginnings. And since then, I've been absolutely obsessed one day at a time with recovery.
That was so awesome, man. Thanks for being so open and honest. And it's so funny, what you say is like, I think those people are sharing, speaking a language that only I understand. But I don't, I think there's so many people. If you think of how many people are in the program or in sobriety or in whatever program that you're talking about, it's a few million out of billions of people. And you're talking about billions of people. How many people numb out on a regular basis?
A lot more people than ones that are in recovery.
Absolutely.
A lot more.
Yeah,
my sponsor always tells me there's not enough seats in these rooms. If the people that needed it were coming to meetings.
I mean, what you were just described is what we call the gift of desperation.
That's what I had to gift it. I always say that every night when I pray, thank you for the gift of desperation. I was given that, but the second part of that, I was given the power of choice. One day at a time, doing the next right thing, even though I was an exposed nerve, and putting myself not on the outside into the middle of the 12-step fellowship and becoming obsessed with meetings and learning about accountability and clearing out that stuff in my soul and my core and being fully accountable, not blaming anybody but myself. I got the power of choice back in my life. And that power of choice eventually led to hope and recovery.
That's so awesome. Yeah, when everybody talks about the most popular, those the promises. And then, but there's the ones from, it's the nine step promises, right?
Yes.
But there's promises all over that book. And I used to do AA a lot more than I do, but I do know that program. And there's promises all over. And my favorite one, and you touched on it a little bit, you said my life's not over, it's just beginning. The most satisfactory years of your existence lie ahead. And I remember reading that when I was crying. And I had no idea, like you're talking about like that cravings and you're like, you think life's over and I'm shaking and I can't control it. And then you read something like that. And I started crying again when I read that, because I was like, really? Like I still have life ahead. It's the most amazing thing. That's where you hear, and then you go to a meeting and you're surrounded by people. And that's, in my opinion, the most valuable part of that program is the fellowship, right?
Exactly.
And when you go
Exactly.
there and somebody gives you a hug while you're hurting and on the bottom of the world, and somebody gives you a hug and says, I understand.
It's the greatest feeling in the world. Early on and still to this day, obviously with Zoom meetings and everything, it's tougher to get physical meetings. But, I feel bad for everyday Earth people that can't walk into a room knowing that they're having an off day or an off week or they're stressed and what it means for a spiritual brother and sister or two of them or three of them to just come over to you and give you a hug and say, it's all good. It's luxury problems. This too shall pass. Better than any therapy in existence. I mean, it's just a feeling that 1 hour of spiritual meditation will give you exactly what you need to not only leave there a better version of yourself, but now to get out of yourself to other people that are struggling. And not just with substance abuse or alcoholism, just your everyday people. I know I'm a better spiritual being for everybody that I work with, my family, my loved ones, my friends, my clients, when I'm more immersed into, the fellowship, because I just feel it. I feel like at times that there's, this anointing that's been, put on me. I have these GMCs, I call them God managed coincidences, all the time. I mean, it is just some of the stuff that something happened this morning. I mean, I was on the phone with Banyan Treatment Center, President and CEO Joe Tuttle. They're very near and dear to me. They helped me tremendously with getting patients in there. And there was a connection that, they were looking for through, my database, and said to me that, we haven't heard from the guy in 2 weeks, literally 20 minutes into the call. He's like, you're not going to believe this. God just emailed me right now as we're on the phone. It's like, of course I believe it. That's how this works.
Yeah.
You and I are talking to do God's work right now and helping people, and the email comes in.
Yeah, those are awesome stories. Yeah, and something else to talk about is like when you go into the program or wherever you go for recovery or treatment center, whatever it is, and you're struggling and life is hard, and then you learn how to get through that. And then, so you've been sober a while, I've been sober a while, life continues to get difficult. It's not like I get sober and everything's perfect and I make the money, the girls, everything's great. That's not the way it goes. The idea now, though, is that I get to handle those things and I get to feel those things. But if I don't continue to grow, then I can be just as miserable being sober as I was when I was drunk.
100%. I did 57 speaking engagements last year, and I talk about this all the time, that just because I got sober and just because you get sober, anybody that's suffering is doing the right thing to get sober. It doesn't guarantee that life gets better, but what it will guarantee is you'll get better. So while you get better and your perspective and perception changes and you get these new lenses in your eyeballs and your brain, guess what happens? You start looking at things differently, you start handling things differently. It doesn't mean the struggles are still not there, but you just become a different person. Everything about your demeanor, the way you handle things, the way you view certain situations, it changes, mostly for the better. And when it doesn't, and you have an off day, because none of us are perfect, you've got the fellowship. For me, it's so much more than the fellowship now. I'm very near and dear with, some of the biggest podcasts, inspirational guys in the world. Jay Shetty's a good friend, and Lewis Howes and Gary Vee, and I watch Tony Robbins stuff, and Joel Osteen I'm very close with. I feel, to me, it's like a perfect blend. I need it all. I need whatever I can, that on a certain day that if I'm off in the recovery world, I know that when I go on Instagram or whatever it might be, and I see whether it's Joel Osteen or Jay Shetty, promoting his new book that's coming out, I see something about mindset and, the way you view different things. And that little pops because, I'm open to all sorts of, positive energy, spiritual messages, because like I said, I'm not just talking to people suffering with substance abuse, people out there with anxiety, stress, depression, overwhelmed with financial situations, the fear of the unknown. So what can I take to put into my toolbox that maybe at a certain point I can then pull that out and give it to somebody else that needs it?
Yeah, I love that. And then, even the book says, seek outside help. When you can find that, like, look where other people are right. Like, one of my favorite, and I'm not a Christian, but one of my favorite speakers in the whole world is Joel Osteen. He's one of the most powerful speakers in the world. And one of the things he said, and I even wrote a section in my book, when you're going through pain, don't waste your pain. That pain is there for a reason. It's there to motivate you, to improve you, to grow you. Don't waste your pain. And he said that, and that was like blew my mind, because that's what we're doing with alcohol and drugs. We're numbing out our pain because we don't want to.
Yeah, he's got some amazing messages. I love every setback. It's a setup for a comeback. I mean, there's just so many, and I'm not Christian either, but I'm spiritual. So when I've had the privilege of sitting in front row with him in Victoria, and I've seen him on the road, and they're just amazing people to me. And I just sit there and I kind of, the religious part, I kind of don't absorb as much. But when I'm sitting here and you just listen to the reality of, I'm like, how does anybody like want to knock people like this for just sending messages out there to help people? Like, what harm is he doing? Like, sometimes they hear, oh, they're making all this money. Yeah, but look at the facility that they have and the people that they're helping, the expenses. I mean, God bless him if if he's able to do it that way. I mean, who cares? The bottom line is, I don't care who you are. You watch Joel Osteen on Sunday morning for 30 minutes. You are not going to tell me you didn't get something out of it that's going to change your view for that day. That's going to make the end of your week that much better. Hulk Hogan, I brought him and his wife Jennifer to see him at Lakewood about a year and a half ago. They loved it. They went way back. They lost contact. I mean, he's just people like that, we need them in the world instead of being so critical about them. Because like I said, there's only so much you can get from the fellowship. And I need it from all ends, because especially in my line of work with what I deal with, I financially support a lot of friggin' people, man. And, I don't mind it because I'm always a giver. I'll move into a freaking shoebox if I had to make sure people I love and care about are taken care of. But it also puts, tremendous strain on myself to just make sure I'm doing whatever I can to keep elevating, the business, and what I have to do to make sure that we stay ahead of, everybody else in the game, to make sure our clients are happy, we're bringing in opportunities. But that spirituality, man, those messages, they keep me right side. And I think most importantly is just helping other people. When I'm able to get out of self, I know that we're not responsible for our thoughts, but we are responsible for how long we want to think those thoughts. And each one of us as human beings have the tools to get out of our own way. It's just, are you going to choose to do that? Or do you want to roll around in it for a couple hours, for a day, for a week, for a month? That's fine on you, but that's what causes emotional stress, spiritual stress, physical ailments, sleep disorders. That ain't me. I'm not going there. I mean, I know where that'll take me. It'll take me that much closer to a relapse, and I'm not doing it because I'm a guy that loves instant gratification. I always have. And even if it's with food, I'm in amazing shape. I'm in the gym 6 days a week, but I got to watch it sometimes on cheat days, whether it's too much sugar or just something that just gets me going. My brain is just wired that way. I just always have to find a way to keep that balance, whatever way it might be. And I think we all do. I think everybody, especially in these times, are so much more susceptible. We've seen so many weekend warriors that have now become fall down drunks, full blown addicts. Because what do you do at a time like this? You can't go anywhere. You're home. You're talking to one person that's negative, talking to another person that's negative. You're watching the news. It's, there's so much craziness going on right now. So I just try to avoid it. Hulk and I spoke last week, and 20 minutes call was all about life. And first thing we said, stay away from watching the news, brother. I'm like, I know. It's just not worth it. This is such like I said, a unique time for all of us to create the best version of ourselves. And hey, man, if you and I can get through to one person from this interview, we're really doing God's work. And that's what it's about. That's why I typically drop everything to make sure I can do as much, talking, speaking, podcast interviews that I can do, because I got to believe at least one person with your big audience is going to be hearing this and be like, you know what? I love what these guys just said. And that really helped me today. And I think this could be a breakthrough for me. And that's why we're doing this.
Yeah, I love that. And what's our purpose? Our purpose is to give. And people don't understand that. It's not, our purpose isn't to make money or to find the best this or the best that and live in the biggest house. It's to give. And so if we focus on that, and if everybody focused on that, everything would be a lot different than it is.
100%.
I love, there's this line that was on your website that I wanted to read. Darren is a true entrepreneur, and he has been able to continuously reinvent himself and significantly grow his business over the years, because life is really just a series of reinventing yourself. And I love that, because that's so important. Again, we talked about it earlier, but it's not stop drinking. This isn't a stop drinking contest, right? This is about like growing up, looking the world in the eye, being mature, you know, all these things I didn't do in my 20s. And it's hard to do in your 30s and 40s and beyond. But you have to constantly be reinventing yourself. And I love that line. And how are you doing that, like on a regular basis? Like what do you do on a regular basis? Like let's just say you just said earlier, like I'm not perfect. You know, I have shitty days. What do you do when you're having a shitty day?
When I'm having a bad day, it's usually, you know, because I'm not connected the way I should be. Because look, we've had plenty of business issues. Things have been all over the place. A lot of stuff getting canceled, rescheduled, postponed. There was the fear of the unknown early on. But to me, my interest always in my spiritual growth and recovery. And, you know, and the more connected I am to whether it's my sponsors, sponsees, people in recovery that are near and dear to me, reaching out to help other people. Just things happen to work out better that way. You know, I always make sure I don't fall off my routine. I work out in the morning, 30 minutes a day, typically 6 days a week. You know, I try to, you know, follow the best, you know, diet that I can for the most part. I've been having some issues lately, but, you know, especially when you travel, that's also hard. But, you know, I think that I take time to myself. I've got a wellness place that I go to, you know, acupuncture. I just think if people are financially limited, that's okay. You don't need to go to places like that. You can go online, go to YouTube. It's free. Type in some sort of inspirational speaker. That's it. If you're suffering from depression, speaker on depression. You'll identify. It's the identification, because the opposite of addiction is connection. When that connection comes, you know, how to deal with overwhelming stress, same thing. There's no freaking way you're not going to sit in front of your computer or on your iPhone or Samsung or Galaxy, whatever it is, and tell me that you had a horrible day, and that 1 hour, 30 minutes that you took to yourself to watch somebody else talking about that they've dealt with very stressful situations and what they've done to get out of it, that you're not going to be better for it, that you're not going to feel a little bit better. And the easy thing to do too is, like, as I said it a couple of times, you're having a bad day, get out of yourself and help other people, because, you know, a lot of people out there have it a lot worse. And I mean, that to me is always key. You know, I really do have luxury problems at the end of the day. You know, I just, but I also have a shit manufacturing machine between my two ears. I've been born with it. And that shit manufacturing machine, if I let it go, it'll go. And, you know, I just have to, I have to stop it. And now I've got the tools to do so.
Yeah, and you mentioned tools, and that's really important. And I work with, I'm a coach for addiction recovery people. And one of the tools I say is so important. I mean, when you hear tools, you're thinking hammer and nails and stuff. But I'm talking about like tools, what you said, spiritual kit of tools, right?
Yeah.
The biggest one, and I want people to always hear this, is that you don't, like, if you're having a shitty day, or if things aren't going your way, or if people aren't behaving the way you want them to, start your day over. You don't have to wait till tomorrow to start your day over. Yeah. You just said a really cool thing that I say all the time. Pull up YouTube, right? Yeah. Go sit on the toilet and pull up a 3-minute YouTube meditation. I like the beach. I like hearing about like beach sounds, seagulls, waves crashing. I want to hear that. So stop what you're doing, go sit on the toilet for 3 minutes and pull up a guided beach meditation, and just sit there, and then shut everything else off and stop listening to your crazy mind and funky brain. Stop listening to your funky brain. Yeah. And just chill out, and then breathe for a couple minutes, and then go out and restart your day. And don't wait till tomorrow when you're broke and piss somebody off and have to start now. That's what
I like they said that don't wait till tomorrow, because, you know, there's so many things that I've gotten through recovery that have changed my life. And like, I always try to say what I mean what I say, and not say it mean. I try to understand people rather than me being understood. I think is hugely important, like the 11th step says. I try not engage, because, you know, like my sponsor said last night, he's like, I know deep down, you still got that ego bigger than New Jersey. And you got to keep that freaking ego in check. And that's super, super, super important to me. Yeah. I got to remind myself every morning that I wake up, you know, because, you know, when I do interviews or I do business lunch or I'm at events and everybody's up my ass and kissing my ass, and not because I'm anybody special. They want to get through to my clients. They see who I work with. They, you know, it's that whole super agent title that, you know, has been in so many different articles and interviews, and I don't listen to it anymore because, you know I'm nobody's super. I just developed a special talent for working with special talent, and my clients are the ones that have all become, global icons. And, when my time comes, I want to be known as the degenerate drug addict that did the next right thing to help as many people as he could. And God willing, I'll be sober the day that I pass. Nothing about Prince Marketing Group. That's just what I do. Who I am is it's about this mission and this blessing that I found my soul on this journey. I truly have found my purpose in life. And because of Prince Marketing Group and the support of all my clients, and especially Magic, who wrote the forward on Aiming High, I've been able to use this platform to get on some of the biggest shows, whether it's, CNN and Chris Cuomo and, Tucker Carlson, Dennis Rodman came on with me, Extra that I did with Dr. Drew and Magic. I mean, I've been able to use that not for nothing business wise, strictly to get this message out there that you could have it all and still feel like nothing. I get mixed of both. I get a lot of high bottoms, but I also get bottoms that are really moved by my story, because I think they're the ones that thought if they were me, they wouldn't have had a problem. So when they see that, oh, wow, here's somebody that had it all, had the money, had the success, had the wife, had the life, and was still miserable. I think to them, they realize that it's not just about that. It's about being whole within yourself. And the self-esteem finally came in my life from doing esteemable acts. Again, took me, all these years in recovery and giving back, reaching back, starting my own foundation, Aiming High, knowing I've got resources to help people that need to detox, get into rehab. Like I said, I've got the relationship with Banning Treatment Center. We have a relationship with Elite Home Detox, which is an amazing service where, addicts or alcoholics that are suffering that don't want to go to rehab, they can log online and book a virtual appointment to set up a nurse or doctors being in their home. I know a lot of people's egos go into rehab, and you can detox safely and properly over a course of 5 or 6 days. I mean, they're beautiful relationships that I've been able to build through recovery. And, it's such a blessing. And I just love the random emails that I get, Instagram posts, Instagram private messages on Facebook, stuff that comes in on our website, and they're coming around the world, which is pretty remarkable. I get them from England, Australia, I get them in France, and how many people truly are suffering from this global addiction pandemic as well. And to be a voice and to drop everything. I don't care what it is that I have. Nothing's too important to be there for somebody trying to make the best life for themselves that they can, because, I knew I wouldn't be here without all the helping hands that have given me this platform. And I'm just very fortunate to be around what I call my own Mount Rushmore of spiritual brothers and sisters. And them all, Chris Herron's a dear friend, and Tim Ryan and Brandon Novak, and Anna David and Ryan Hampton, and they're all game changers. And we all have this amazing mission that we're out together to touch the world and help change and save lives. And like I said, I've truly found myself on this journey. And never in a million years did what I've thought the best thing I've ever done in my life was become an opiate addict. Because if I didn't, I wouldn't be here talking to you. I wouldn't finally have the sense of self and loving everything about me from the inside. I don't need to wear Rolexes anymore. I could buy one if I wanted to tomorrow. I'm in sweatpants, as my girls will tell you every day. It's not about the stuff anymore. It's about if I have the ability with some extra money, I'd rather take care of people that are suffering and struggling, whether it's, through getting them into a rehab, or people that work for me, or family members or loved ones, to just make sure I can give somebody else a little bit of relief. I've already had that life. Stuff never made me happy. What makes me happy is helping people.
So if somebody's listening to us right now, because they see a couple of guys that are healthy, successful guys, but we were both like dying at some point, and you mentioned suicide. Like, I had thoughts of suicide earlier, and so somebody that's laying there right now, hopeless and helpless, thinking those thoughts and has no direction, no money, nowhere to go. What's something that you could say to offer these people that are just feeling hopeless?
Well, it's definitely asking for help and speaking up, and understand that the strength comes when you ask. The weakness stays when you don't ask. And I'm around a lot of people now. They've got a lot of demons and some things wrong with them, but they're not taking an action. They're not talking to me, a loved one, a family member, a friend. they're not going to therapy to deal with their issues. They're, they basically bottle that stuff up, and you could see other personalities that just things are not right. But you really got to just reach out and know that I'm available at all times. People, my Instagram is @agent_DP. They can go to officialdarrenprince.com and message me, or on Facebook. And I get back to people. It's not, I don't know, my social media team do it. I do it myself. If it means I got to call somebody too, I'll call them. And as long as they tell me they want help, I don't solicit people. I don't go after people. If you were to call me and say, hey, I got a friend that really, I think needs some help, but I'm too close to him. Would you want him calling? No, I'm going to say, does he want help? Give him my number. I'd rather put that energy into people calling me, because I know if you're calling me, you might have that gift of desperation. So like I said, I don't solicit anybody. I don't care who it is. I've had many mothers and fathers calling about their sons, daughters, husbands, wives. And that's one thing. I don't care who it is. You call me, I will be there to pick up the phone. You send me a text and tell me you need help. Look, I can't help every single time, but I'll put my best effort into whatever I can do to use resources to give you the best fighting chance you have to turn your life around. Ultimately, it's also up to that individual to go through whatever they have to go through and come out on the other side like you and I did.
Yeah, well, that's awesome to hear. I love hearing people dedicate their lives to helping other people. That's why I do this. This is to connect people on some level and show people that, you can turn your life around. Anybody can. I don't care what position you're in, how much you're suffering. I know people with no legs that have turned their lives around.
Exactly. And they're some of the happiest people you've ever seen. They never complain.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's not about, your appearances. How do you feel on the inside? And it takes a little while to get there. I tell people it's 100 miles into the woods. It's 100 miles back out, but it doesn't have to take as long or be as painful on the ride out.
Exactly.
Yeah. But you do have to ask for help. So let's close it out on a fun note. Tell us a fun story about one of your icons that you deal with.
Well, tell me which one. Do you want one from Magic, Hulk, Dennis, Joe Frazier, Evel Knievel? Do you have a favorite? Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, let's hear a Muhammad story.
Okay, so Muhammad Ali was 1996. It was 3 weeks after he lit the torch at the Olympics. It was one of the most watched moments in the history of the Olympics, and he was up there shaking. And so I met him at the Essex House. My good friend Harlan Warner was his agent for years. He allowed me to work with the Ali team, and we had to do these autograph signings of these Olympic torch photos, a limited edition of 1996. So Harlan went with Lonnie, Muhammad's wife, shopping, and they both pulled me aside to go, whatever you do, Muhammad does not leave this hotel room. Do you understand? I was like, all right, yeah. They said, so it's me, my boy Alan Elwood, and we're sitting there, he's signing pictures, and all of a sudden the champ looks up after 20 minutes. He goes, I'm hungry. All right, champ. I said, I'll order your room service. Cool. He goes, McDonald's. I said, oh yeah, there's one at the corner. Tell me, you want a cheeseburgers, Big Macs, whatever. I'll go run down the street and get it. He goes, He goes, we're going to McDonald's. I go, McDonald's? Are you kidding me? There's no freaking way. I was like, it's like walking with the president across the street in Central Park. It's going to be a nightmare getting you through there. And I said, and Lonnie said specifically, your wife, don't take him anywhere. He looks, he goes, I'm the boss. He goes, we're going to McDonald's. So we go downstairs. I couldn't believe this. I mean, I've never seen anything like this. This was literally like Elvis Presley, the president, all at once, taxi cab, tooting their horns, screaming. Probably took us like 30 minutes just to get there. He got stopped by so many people, picking up babies, kissing everybody, taking photos. He was a special man. Him and Joe Frazier were both cut from the same cloth. They understood it, that they were kings of the world and how they gave back to people. And man, when we got to McDonald's, I can't even tell you, he went in the back with the kitchen and took photos with everybody, and just an amazing, amazing human being. Yep, that touched the world, I think, more than any other, icon. He really, he's really appreciated now too, with everything going on with all these movements. The way Muhammad Ali stood for himself outside of his sport and the things that he sacrificed. So very blessed to have those experiences. Like I said, with guys like him and Smoke and Joe, were very near and dear to me.
That's awesome. I was going to end it there, but I had this thought, and it's amazing. And I've talked about it before too. But some people, like what we were talking about, like our purpose is to give and to love, right? And to be of service, however you want to phrase it. But a lot of people do that naturally. Like I didn't get
Yeah,
that naturally. It took me a while to learn that my purpose is to give. Because I'm
exactly.
selfish. I'm always thinking about I need to make money, have the girl, the house.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
Yep.
he just did that like that was his life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier, I tell people like all the time, because like I said, they were at levels that nobody's at today. And all these current icons know that, because I was around them. I've seen the biggest stars in the world and presidents, just become kids. De Niro, Pacino, Michael Jordan, Kobe, may he rest in peace. I mean, Lionel Richie running out of Teo's restaurant after Joe, and when we were at a restaurant one time, screaming for him to come over and say hello. And Beyonce, it was just amazing. The level that they were at. They would both, if they weren't flying private, get to an airport at least 2 hours early, and they did it for one reason: so they could be in the airport making sure they put a smile on people's faces.
Yeah.
They don't make them like that anymore. They don't make them like that anymore. Whether it was an autograph, whether it was holding the babies, whether it was taking pictures, talking to people, it's, you're given a gift like that. You're given a platform like that. Why not take advantage of it? Like you've got such an ability to do things that, most people will never fully understand. And, they both got it, in their passing. I think they're both bigger now than they ever were. Their names both come up so often. There's not a news article, I don't think, any day around the world that doesn't pop up. Even their rivalry, Ali Frazier, just comes up when you see anything that's a rivalry, whether it's soccer or another sport. And it's a testament to who they were. Just two beautiful men that, not only touched the world, but touched my life. It's why the intro to my book is all about my experience of getting them together and aiming high the first time when they made peace after 30 plus years. And I was privileged to be there in the room that night in Muhammad's suite in Philadelphia. Unfortunately, I was just high as a kite on opiates, and I wasn't fully present. So we thought that was the perfect story to open up the book with.
Awesome stuff, man. Well, thank you so much, Darren. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot, and I appreciate you. And I hope my listeners got something out of it too, which I'm confident they did.
Especially, and if anybody goes to Instagram at agent_DP and private messages, maybe we'll ship free hardcover books to anybody and everybody that wants them.
Awesome stuff. Thank you so much, Darren. Maybe we could do it again sometime.
For sure.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. Have a great day today. Talk to you soon. So you can't think your way into a new way of acting. You have to act your way into a new way of thinking and being. Hi, I'm Dennis Berry, best-selling author, speaker, and life coach for addiction recovery. So many people are stuck in their addiction, whether it's like drugs or alcohol or food or shopping or sex or money, and they think they could just stop or try to figure it out on their own, but they don't change anything in their lives. Nothing changes if nothing changes. In order for change to happen, you have to change something. My clients will be like, oh, I'll stop tomorrow, or if this happens, then I stop, or someday I'll just give it up. And then they just sit around and think, and hope for different or better results, but it doesn't happen. You have to take action. Action most people aren't willing to take. People don't become willing until they're in enough pain, me included. And unfortunately, they wait, and time passes by. Even if you are willing, you don't even know where to begin. And that's where I come in. In my best-selling book, Funky Wisdom, A Practical Guide to Life, I talk about the how approach. How do I get sober? How do I stop doing drugs? How do I become healthier? How do I have more successful relationships? How do I become more financially successful? And the answer is how. Honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. I have to honestly admit that there's a problem. I have to honestly admit that things aren't going well and there needs to be changes. And then once I do that, the door opens and I become open to seeing new ways of living. And then I become willing to make those changes. You can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it. That's why I'm here to help. And, I've been working with clients for over 15 years and helping them get clean and sober and change their lives and achieve inner peace and success. If you or somebody you love is struggling and doesn't know where to begin and how to make those changes to get to where they need to be, give me a call. Not tomorrow or in a week from now when you're hungover and your life is falling apart. Call now. Start making that change today and you'll be glad that you did. I'm sending you love and good vibes. Have a great day today.